First of all, I'd just like to welcome everybody. I'm Scott Marble. I'm the chair of the School of Architecture. And I know we're joining from all over the world, so welcome everybody. And I do want to start by just saying that I hope everybody is safe and healthy. It's a little bit of an unusual time we're in, but we have a great presentation for you today, and we're joined by several faculty and students. And I'll start by just letting each one of them just very briefly introduce themselves and tell you what role they play in the school, and then they'll be involved throughout the presentation. So I'll start with Michael. Why don't you start since you're the director of the program? Michael?
Hi, so I'm Michael Gamble. I am the director of the Master of Architecture program. I'm a practicing architect here in town. We have a architecture and development business, and I teach 5 days a week. I'm on the main floor of Hinman every day teaching studio. Scott and I co-teach a technology course. I have a lot of enthusiasm for the subject. That's what you'll get from me.
Keith?
So I'm Keith Caseman. I also teach studios in the design and research level. I am at the Digital Fabrication quite a lot, running seminars over there. I coordinate the Masters of Science in Architecture with a concentration in advanced production, and I also direct the Spatial Futures Lab, which I'll tell you more about in a little while.
Great. Deborah?
Hello, everyone. I'm Deborah Mesa. I joined Georgia Tech 2 years ago in 2018 as the Ventulet chair, doing some studios and working with master students, and also doing a seminar that engages students from undergrad and also grad programs. And my firm is Ensemble Studio, so I'm also very engaged in practice, and I try to bring these synergies between practice and academia. And all I can say is that these past 2 years in Georgia Tech have been amazing. So I'm very proud to have joined and to be part of it.
Okay, great. Katie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Canfield. I studied studio art and applied mathematics at Skidmore College before arriving at Georgia Tech, and I'm in my first year of the 3.5-year program. I previously worked at Tiffany & Company as a jewelry apprentice.
Great. Okay, Paola?
Well, I'm Paula Santiago. I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm currently in my first year of the 2-year MArch track. Before that, I did my bachelor's degree in environmental design at the University of Puerto Rico. And right after that, 1 year I spent doing some research and working into architecture firms. And then I joined Georgia Tech, and I'm so happy to be here. I love Georgia Tech. And I'm very happy to answer any questions you have. I'm a student ambassador for the graduate program, so I'm here to help you in anything I can. Thanks.
Okay, Banksy?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Banksy Akuchu. I'm in my final semester of the 2-year master's program. I did my undergrad originally at Tech, and after that I worked at a firm for a year, and then I decided to come back to school. And currently I serve as a student ambassador as well as the current president of the Georgia Tech National Organization of Minority Architecture Students. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll start the presentation. All right, well, again, welcome everybody. One thing I want to do before we get into the presentation is just remind everybody that following this session that we're having today, which is, the session today is really an overview of the school, and we'll touch on a lot of topics, but not go into too much detail. But we're offering 5 other sessions that are listed here on the screen next Wednesday and Thursday. So I think most of you or all of you got invitations to these, so make sure that you join all of them or just the ones you're interested in, but there'll be a lot more kind of in-depth information around these topics in the special sessions. So I'm going to start, I want to start by talking about just the graduate programs that we have at the school. I know that most of you on the call are applying to our Master of Architecture program, but we have some people that are applying to the Master of Science, both in Architecture and Urban Design, and maybe some PhD students. And it's important, I think, to even for the Master of Architecture students to understand that our combination of graduate programs are, I think, one of the things that really make Georgia Tech special. We have a very robust set of programs, and they all interact quite a bit. And even though you're there as a Master of Architecture student, you will run into PhD students. You'll see the research they're doing, and so the combination of programs is really part of your experience as a student at Georgia Tech. So the Master of Architecture program, you guys know well because you've applied to it. This is, our professional program. One of the things that's, I think, unique about the program and the entire school really is that we're embedded in one of the premier technological universities in the world. And that really gives our students a very unique experience. We obviously have a strong curriculum in technology, and we draw on the resources of the Institute in our entire curriculum. The Master of Science in Architecture program, this is a post-professional program that is a year-long program, and it allows students to go into more depth in a particular topic if they're interested. Some of our Master of Architecture students proceed into this program, and then a lot just join this program and then often proceed into the PhD. There's several specialized topics that you see listed there: advanced production, building systems and data, which is more kind of programming and software, design computation, health and design, and then high performance building. And each one of these has a research lab dedicated to it. And then our Master of Science in Urban Design, I think some of you were at the session on Monday with Ellen. This program is run by Ellen Dunham Jones. It's really kind of a thriving program. It's a program that really benefits from being in Atlanta, and it's also a program that interacts a lot with all of the other graduate programs. And then finally, our PhD architecture program is, again, it's one of the largest and kind of broadest programs in the United States. There's several areas that revolve around technology, but we also have a history theory group in the program, and it's really a great program. And as I mentioned, it benefits from being in the school, and also the Master of Architecture kind of draws on the resources of this program and often participates in the research labs. So the people, the school is really, I would say it's actually a very student-centric program. We really rely on our students a lot. We kind of encourage them right when they get at the school to get involved, to really take control of their education and participate in making the school better. And I can tell you that in the last 5 or so years, it's been amazing what our students have done. They really are a key part of how the school evolves. Actually, all the way from helping us to think about the curriculum, helping us to think about events and special programs. And one of the things that they do is also through the ambassador program. You see all of our graduate ambassadors here. They help us with recruiting and helping to acclimate student applicants like yourselves to what goes on at the school. We also know that as you're applying to school, you really want to hear from students. So I encourage you, if you haven't already done it, to connect with a student ambassador and really hear their side of their experience at Georgia Tech, because it's really a very different story, and I think they give you great insight. We also have a student advisory council. This is another way that we get that we kind of set up a forum to hear from all of the students as to what they're experiencing and any recommendations that they have for the school leadership. We meet with this group once a month. We hear, and it's really their meeting. We hear what they have to say, and they serve as kind of liaisons between their various years in the program and the school leadership. So they play a really key role. Our student organizations are huge. They've grown, they've expanded. They set up their own kind of lecture series. They do design build projects on campus. They do competitions. So it really is, I think almost every student is involved in at least one of these groups and maybe even more than one. We have the American Institute of Architecture students, the AIS group, the Equity in Architecture group, the NOMAS group, which is the National Organization of Minority Architecture Students, and a brand new group that just started, I don't know, 3 months ago, and this came out of the Student Advisory Committee group. It's called ECO, and it really started with students being interested in trying to make the design studios more sustainable. I think that was the initial kind of kernel of an idea, and they've evolved, and they're just getting started, and they're kind of broadening, I think, their mission. Banksy and Kate, I don't know if you guys want to just say a couple of words about the programs from your point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Hey.
Banksy, go ahead.
Hey, so yeah, I'm currently a member, I'm, I guess, president of NOMAS as well as a member of EQIA. And honestly, it's an amazing forum to be able to get together with other students and push for kind of the values and things that we want to see within the school. And it is just a very open forum that is truly very accepting for anyone and everyone within the program, no matter your year or like experience level. Anyone is always welcome. And go ahead, Kate.
Kate?
Okay. I am a member of Equity in Architecture, and I'm trying to get more involved with that. Given my first year, I trying to get involved in a lot of different things, so I'm testing the waters. But I think the one thing that I'm most excited about is the new club, ECO, that two classmates and I are really trying to get the ball rolling. Our primary goal is to really make the College of Architecture and College of Design more sustainable. And we plan to do that by revamping recycling bins, doing a lot of research and raising awareness to students. We are trying to actually get our hands into what products and materials are being wasted so that we can understand how we can change Georgia Tech on a smaller scale and then hopefully branch out and grow to be big and really influential.
Great. And now our faculty, just to briefly touch on our faculty, you know, we have a great faculty that's very active in research and in addition to teaching, very prolific in terms of publication and kind of promoting their work around the world. This is just a snapshot of some of the books from our faculty and just some of the numbers around the type of production they do in terms of producing articles and other publications. So you'll get a chance with the other sessions to meet several of other faculty. I also encourage you, if you're interested in somebody's work that you see on our webpage, shoot them an email. You know, reach out to them and just say, listen, I really am interested in your work. Can you tell me, you know, what opportunities I might have to work with you? So I strongly encourage all of the people applying to be proactive about reaching out to faculty that you might be interested in. We have a few recurring visiting professors that we bring in to the school. The Portman Critic, this is a person that we invite in that it has a practice, also generally involved in teaching, and they lead one of our graduate programs, the second year Portman Prize Studio program. And this year we have Alan Organsky. He was also here last year. And the experience that the students have had and the results that have come out of the studio has been quite amazing. He has an incredible practice in Connecticut where he focuses on mass timber construction. So the Portman Critic is something that you'll experience at Portman Studio, and we get a new person every couple of years. We also have a program where we bring in emerging professors just at the beginning of their career. It's called the Vincent Next Fellows. And at any given time, we have 2 fellows at the school. Vernell Noel is one of our current Next Fellows. Ryan Rourke is also a current Next Fellow. And these positions are great because we're bringing in new people all the time to the school to kind of to work with and learn from our faculty, but also to give students just exposure to people at the beginning of their career that are really going to be leaders, future leaders in architectural education. And then the Vincent Chair is one of our kind of main positions that Deborah currently has, and this is a position that we have for a very kind of internationally renowned practicing architect. And Deborah certainly fits that bill. And so maybe I'll let Deborah just say a couple of words about what she's been doing at the school and about her experience as a Vincent Chair. So Deborah?
Yes. So this is, as Scott was introducing, an incredible position. I think certainly for the architect who is lucky to get it. And I think it's also an opportunity for the school and the students to engage with people who are very active in their practice, like is my case. And so, as I said in the beginning, in the introduction, my goal is to bring topics from the world of practice that I encounter as a practitioner into academia in order to expose the students to these topics, to the methodologies that as an architect I found to be instrumental and that have taken me quite a while to figure out, and also to get them in contact with other stakeholders in the field that I'm collaborating with. So it is a pretty interesting position that I've been exercising through formats like studio and workshops. The workshops are more hands-on. For example, right now it's called Material Diversions. So it is pretty connected to the way in which I design in my own firm, and you can see my background full of gadgets and research. And so this workshop, for instance, is really about researching and thinking with the hands, and starting from small models to big prototypes, choose a material and start exploiting its potential through the making process. And then the studio has a bit of that, but it's more, maybe it's a more complex topic that I've chosen, which is housing. So it also starts with research, maybe a more theoretical framework, but a lot of hands-on experimentation as well. And it progresses through an iterative process into a design of a project that reframes typologies, but also reframes construction methodologies. And in the studio, I try to engage other architects, other engineers, but also people who are working in the, like for instance, this semester that we are working in Boston, people from the city of Boston and the Housing Innovation Lab, or developers, so that students can also get exposed to other perspectives and get feedback of their own projects through those perspectives that are fundamental. The position is very well funded, and so I have the chance to fund a lot of the materials that students use, but also to organize a trip to visit key architectures that can help understand some of the topics that we address in the studio, and maybe something else that is very connected to the way in which I practice and that I bring to the studio is the methodology. I do what I call half on-site, half online studio, and from the beginning, I put in place a very strong online platforms for students to collaborate, for us to communicate, to get comfortable working online as well as in person, and also identify what is the potential of both. We started this in January, and as you can imagine, how we're living today, it has become instrumental to be able to transition smoothly today to a fully online. But of course, we're missing the on-site a lot. But I think this is important because it prepares also the students to be able to use the tools that they have at their disposal in the best way that fits their processes. And so I will just finish saying or echoing something that Scott was also mentioning. The students that I found in Georgia Tech are amazing. I've been training and trying these methodologies for a long time in multiple universities. And the way in which they are running in Georgia Tech, because of the engagement of the students, their capacity to share information, to collaborate, it's been an amazing journey. So I encourage you all to really study very carefully what Georgia Tech has to offer, and I hope to see you around next year.
Great. Thank you, Deborah. Thanks. So now we're going to talk about design and research, and this is something that you'll hear a lot at Georgia Tech because it's again one of our kind of differentiating characteristics is that we approach architectural design very much through research, and this is where we also draw on our PhD program and our MS program. I'm going to let Michael talk quickly about the graduate design studios, the 3 years of studios, and then I'll introduce the research labs that we have. So Michael?
Hi. Okay. So, well, many of you are coming into the 2-year program. Many of you are coming into the 3-year program. I'll just walk you through each year briefly. The 3-year students come from a diverse background. So we have students like Katie who've studied fine art, students who may have an economics degree, et cetera. There's a real diverse cohort of students. They come into a 3-semester sequence we call the core, and we start with just basic drawing techniques and basic model making techniques. We call it sort of an analog studio where you're learning descriptive geometry, you're learning the basic tools. And over the course of 3 semesters, we introduce a number of software platforms at the same time. We teach you how to export stereolithography files. You spend time working in our fabrication lab. So at the end of the core sequence, we fully bridge the gap between these analog and traditional means of architectural production, which have a deep history, into what we would say is the foundation of future practice. So we put a lot of emphasis in the first year on preparing you as a practitioner and establishing a good foundation for the architectural discipline. Next slide. In the second year, it's called the advanced year. We have a fall and spring studio that are actually quite different. The fall studio is predicated on putting technology at the service of the imagination. So our thesis in the fall studio of the second year is that the tools are nothing without creativity, deep conceptual investigations, and really sort of hitting the gas on imaginary thinking. In the spring semester, Alan Organsky, whom Scott already mentioned, is the Portman Prize Chair, and that studio is focused on building the carbon positive city, advanced technologies in timber construction, and we're putting increasing emphasis across our graduate program on ecology, sustainability, et cetera. If you all get a moment to look at Georgia Tech's new living building, we have the first living building in the Southeast. It is a completely closed loop system. It generates 132% of its required energy. It has a 50,000 gallon cistern. We're drinking rainwater over there. And basically we're using the building as this incredible teaching tool. We have all of these different research projects from across campus housed in the building, and we also have our climate change program there. So you'll spend a lot of time in two buildings, over at the Living Building, well, three, Living Building, Digital Fabrication Lab, and our Hinman research space. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the campus next week. Next slide, please. And then our design and research studios are where we're drawing from our MS degrees, so our Master of Science in Digital Design and Fabrication, our Master of Science in High Performance Building. We're bringing all of these disciplines to bear in these research-focused studios. And the DNR studios, the easiest way to describe them is that you are identifying a problem or a research area that you want to leave graduate school with and continue to investigate in your own practice. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on that this semester. If I have the opportunity toward the end of the semester, I'd like to show you the digital pinup area we're using in my design studio this semester, which I co-teach with an environmental engineer, and we have engineering students and architecture students in the same setting. So time permitting, I'll share that, or if I could share it now, I will.
Okay, maybe we're running a little bit long already, Michael. So let's try to get through this, and then we'll, at the end, if we have time, we'll show that, because it is quite interesting.
Good. Okay.
And then I'll say something quickly about this. This is not a formal studio, but it's one of the things that happens every year that is run by Ellen Dunham Jones and the Master of Science in Urban Design program, which is the ULI Hines student competition. This has grown to be a real kind of event every year. It's just 2 weeks. It's very intense. It happens at the beginning of the spring semester, and students form teams from across various schools within the college, and they do a competition in 2 weeks, enter it, and then if they become a finalist or they win it, they get quite a significant cash prize. Our students have placed for the last 4 years. So our students do very well, usually more than one team places out of 130 entries. So this is something that's a great experience that you can look forward to, and it's a great kind of interdisciplinary and collaborative experience for students from various schools to work together.
Scott, I'd like to add, if I could add quickly, we've had a lot of recognition in our design and research year as well. We've had students in Barcelona, Spain, last year. Students from my design studio, co-taught with Tarek, won first prize in an international competition. So there's a lot of opportunities for in-house and national and international competitions that we pursue at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll run through the research labs quickly just to give you a taste of the kind of culture of research that exists, and it's really just kind of ambient at the school. The first lab is it's called the Cemtegrate Lab, and this is the lab that kind of merges design and health. It's run by Professor Craig Zimring, who's really at the forefront of this area. He's one of the kind of original founders, let's say, of evidence-based design that he utilizes in his work. He has a huge space where they do full-scale prototypes of spaces to test how healthcare facilities operate. And it's a great lab, well-funded, and several of our students take classes related to this. The High Performance Building Lab, this is directed by Tarek Raka, one of our new faculty. You can see him up in the right-hand corner with a couple of his students. And it looks like a drone flying right in front of them. But this is a lab that basically studies the the technical aspects of building primarily through energy conservation, energy mitigation. So it's again, a very well-established lab, internationally recognized lab, and Tarek also is involved in teaching in the Master of Architecture program and teaches a studio, as Michael mentioned, with Michael in the DNR studios of the MARC program. The Digital Building Lab, this is another one of our kind of premier research labs. This is a lab that deals with several topics around digital workflows in design and construction, ranging from how softwares work together. They deal with design and construction automation. They look at smart cities, smart environments, smart buildings. And they also look at how projects are delivered, how they are actually built in that process. So this is, again, a great lab that you also can get involved with. The Shape Computation Lab, this is a lab that is slightly more theoretical, kind of developing sort of fundamental software languages. If you see the animation running now, this is a kind of an invention that has come out of this lab just in the last couple of years called the Shape Machine. And it's again, it's kind of a new type of programming language, a visual programming language that has profound implications for architecture. And Thanos Economou and his students have been working on this for several years, and they're really starting to make some significant breakthroughs. And then the Digital Fabrication and Robotics Lab, I'm going to let Keith talk a little bit about this and then talk about his lab. So Keith?
Yeah, so the Digital Fabrication Lab, we call it a DFL, is quite a facility. It's a large space that has plenty of industrial grade machines, ranging from CNC routers, super fast CNC routers, to a water jet, to our KUKA robotic arm, plus an array of really nice woodworking machines, tools, and welding, welding station and so on. The space is quite flexible. It's always in action. It's been super vibrant lately, especially with all kinds of different projects going on. So you'll never know what you're going to see when you walk in. If you could go to the next slide, Scott. Oh, yeah. So a few people who've been involved with the DFL for a long time. One is Professor Tristan Al-Haddad, who also has a firm, a design and fabrication firm called Formations. So I'm sure you've seen some of his work in some venue. His work is quite amazing, and he brings that to tech with super advanced concrete production, and he's been running that kind of research for a long time. He works on all things, all materials, large and at all scales. This that you see on the screen was a ductile concrete assembly that was exhibited in Paris at Parc de la Valette. You can see it's in front of one of Shumi's follies on the right side there. But very advanced, really beautiful work. Maybe next slide. And Dr. Russell Gentry has way too many projects to list, but this one is a current project that has to do with reclaiming wind turbines when their life, their performance expires. Nobody on the planet has a great way to deal with what to do with these. So he, along with Tristan, is studying different ways to reclaim the material, different production techniques, different assemblies, and so on and so forth. That's ongoing and very fresh and very exciting. And on the next slide, you'll see the Spatial Futures Lab. So I founded this about a year and a half ago. It's a space that's nested within the DFL. You can see in the background, there's the DFL space. But what you see on that video, well, let me back up and say, we focus on multi-system design production, and we experiment with bringing different technologies together to develop new ways of working, new ways of thinking, basically projecting future forms of practice and production, maybe all mixed together in one. We are incorporating mixed reality, motion capture, computer vision, augmented reality, robotics, and also super low-tech tools. And basically, we're thinking about how many different ways can we open up a venue to think about different ways of working that would otherwise not be accessible. And so we have an ongoing collaboration with Georgia Tech School of Electrical and Computer Engineering. And so one of my assistants is the true computer wizard in the house, and we're weaving all this stuff together. And as Scott said, the research directly feeds all the other courses, design studios, and seminars. And so I teach 2 seminars. One is called Advanced Productions, and that's really focused on connecting the digital and physical through augmented reality. And the other is Robotic Operations. This semester we just put a chainsaw on the robotic arm, so it's got it's a little bit like Mad Max in there right now. The video that you see at the bottom of this screen, really briefly, is a system that we've developed and have progressed quite a lot, actually, over the last few months, where we can model live with a drone in space, using a drone as a cursor and tracking it with a motion capture system and seeing the results, the actions play out in the HoloLens live as you do it. We just ran a workshop in Barcelona about a month ago that where we leading up to and during the workshop, we've progressed the system quite far. So if you want to see the latest and greatest, you should check out gt.spatialfutures on Instagram, and I'll be posting a lot of stuff.
Okay, great, Keith. So we're going to have another session on international education, a whole session, but Michael's just going to quickly introduce our programs, and then if you want to hear more about these programs, definitely join one of these special sessions. So, Michael?
Great, thanks, Scott. So yeah, we'll dive deeper into international education and the campus next week. But go ahead, I'm going to move quickly through the. We have the second oldest international study abroad program housed in the School of Architecture that's known as Modern Architecture in the Modern City. We work in 4 cities for at least 20 days. We typically start in Berlin, Amsterdam, Paris, and London. Those are our 4 primary cities. And we use the city as a classroom, so we'll hear a lot about that next week. It's a full summer program, and the cool thing is out-of-state students pay in-state tuition. Dr. Thanos Economou runs a Greece-Italy program. This is a very orthodox, linear approach to architectural history that starts in Santorini and Crete and finishes in Venice. Next slide. And then we've got several design, develop, build projects underway in Africa. We've completed one now in Ghana, and we have 2 other projects coming online that look really exciting. And these projects we'll talk about in greater detail. We have partner schools in Germany that we're working with. So I look forward to you all joining next week for a short overview of that.
Thanks, Michael. And now just briefly to touch on what we do to help all of our students kind of prepare for their careers while they're in school and also after they graduate. We have each year we have a very large career fair. For the last, say, 3 years probably, we've had over 60 firms come to our career fair. The firms have started to comment that there's more firms than there are students looking for our students, and they've been super happy with our students. They continually comment to me and let me know that of all the schools that they're recruiting from, they're really very happy with the students coming out of Georgia Tech, and our students have been getting multiple job opportunities from these career fairs. Another program that we have, which introduces students to firms around the country, is the SOA Practicum program. And this is a program that occurs during spring break. It's a very short program, but what happens is that we connect students with firms around the country, and they're usually top design firms. You go there for a week, you just basically shadow people in the office, you get exposed to an office. Most importantly, you make connections, and you get to see what these firms are like, and you also get to see what these cities are like. A lot of our students go to a city that they haven't been to because they want to check out LA, or they want to check out San Francisco or New York, Boston, and then you make connections, and then hopefully follow up and get internships during the summer or jobs, full-time jobs after graduation. Entrepreneurship is a big part of our program. It's something that we've really emphasized over the last several years, and what we mean by that is that we really instill in our students from the day they enter the door to be very proactive and engaged in their career. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, certainly we're talking about preparing our students to go out, start their firms, and develop kind of new ways of practicing. But we also think of it as just a general attitude that we want our students to have, to get involved, to be leaders, and to make a difference. And so this is playing out in several ways in our school, one of which is the student organizations. Our rankings have been going up. The last 2 years, the Design Intelligence rankings, Georgia Tech has been in the top 10 in 10 of the 12 subject areas that Design Intelligence ranks. So you can see the rankings from last year. So our rankings continue to go up, and we're especially happy with these rankings because they're very specific. They talk about some of the topics that are really important to us: construction materials and methods, healthy built environments, interdisciplinary studies. These are things that are really core to our curriculum, and we rank very highly in those areas. So we want to talk briefly about where you're going to be. You're going to be in Atlanta, you're going to be at Georgia Tech, and more specifically, you're going to be in the School of Architecture. Atlanta, for those of you who don't know much about the city, it is a thriving place. It is growing exponentially. There are new buildings being built all over the place. It's really becoming an absolute hub of the Southeast, and it's a place that we take advantage of at the School of Architecture. We really are very involved in Atlanta. Our students and faculty and alumni have been critical in the kind of physical shaping of the city over several decades. This is the Beltline, just a portion of the Beltline, which has completely transformed the city. It's a rail to trail transformation that loops the entire city, and it's quite simple. It's basically just a path, but it has driven development. It's driven incredible kind of energy in the city. And one of our students from several years ago, this was this person's thesis project. Now think about that. 20 years ago, one of our students had this idea, stuck with it, and now it's becoming a reality, and it's completely transforming the city. We have a lot of great architecture and a lot of great cultural buildings. The Civil and Human Rights Museum is in Atlanta. The High Museum is in Atlanta. So it's a great place to be and to study architecture. This is a project from one of our distinguished alumni from years ago, John Portman, his Marriott Marquis atrium, which is one of the most honestly incredible interior spaces that you'll experience in your entire life. It's surreal. Movies are filmed in here. It's really quite an amazing space. So you get exposed to a lot in Atlanta, and it's just a great place to be outside of your kind of academics. There's a very strong music, film, food culture. Atlanta is one of the homes to hip hop with very well-known artists like Outkast. The film industry has moved in and has become very active in Atlanta. There's a show on HBO called Atlanta. It's starting to be referred to as the Hollywood of the South. The food scene in Atlanta is amazing. So when you want to get out of studio and get away from campus, you can go to any number of very cool places and just have a great time being in Atlanta. And sports is a big part of the culture of the city. This is the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a phenomenal stadium that hosted the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So just to say that Atlanta is really a great place to be when you're in graduate school. Now, the campus, of course, the School of Architecture is on Georgia Tech's campus. The campus is right on the edge of downtown. It's a beautiful campus, a very beautifully landscaped campus. It has buildings that have rooftop gardens and areas for students to hang out and study. This is the top of one of our student center. So students go up there and meet, have lunch, or even study. This just gives you a sense of it's a very interesting kind of topography. It is kind of rolling hills throughout the campus, great buildings, and it's just a great place to be. And as Michael mentioned earlier, we also just finished the Candida building, which is a Living Building Challenge building. And this has just become an instant hit. We teach several classes there. And as Michael mentioned, it's really a laboratory for our school. Our students are learning from it. It's literally what its name says. It is a living building, and so we're monitoring how it's operating, and that's part of its kind of idea. This is inside the living building. It's a great place to work and to study. And then the School of Architecture. This is where you're going to be, right here. This is the Hinman Research Building. It's a fantastic space. Everybody who comes in here just comments on what a great space it is to spend time in your studio. And it's also just it's a learning tool too. I mean, students are constantly looking at the building, looking at the details, and kind of learning literally from the full scale space that they're occupying. This is what it looks like during one of our big events. It gets pretty messy during the semester, but it's a great space. And just outside of that building is a courtyard space that we've used a lot for events. This is our photograph that we take at the beginning of every year of all the students, the incoming students. And so the facilities for the school are really quite phenomenal. The Digital Fabrication Lab, Hinman, the courtyard, the living building. It's really kind of superb facilities. So I'm going to end with just giving you an overview of what happens in addition to the curriculum. We have a lot of events and exhibitions and lectures, and the reason we do this is that we want our students to be exposed to as many ideas, as many voices, and as many people as possible during their time at Tech. You're obviously going to get exposed to our faculty and to all of our visiting faculty like Deborah, but we also are constantly bringing in people talking about topics that are kind of at the forefront of architecture today. We have a very robust lecture series. We have special lectures each year where the Atlanta Practices Lecture, where we bring in practicing architects from Atlanta to talk about their work. We have the Design Atlanta lecture series where we partner with the Museum of Design in Atlanta, and we have a lecture off campus at the Woodruff Arts Center where the Haydn Museum is, and we bring in top people to present their work. This is Michael Murphy from Mass Design Group in Boston. Each year we have the Douglas C. Allen lecture, which focuses on landscape and kind of urban design. This Kate Orff from Scape Design was at the school a couple of years ago. We also have symposia, probably I would say 2 to 3 each year, that kind of supplement and enhance your experience at the school. And we have a very nice gallery where we have exhibitions both outside the school and a lot of work actually from the school and from the students get exhibited in the Stubbins Gallery. And then one of the really fun things we do at the end of the fall semester is that we have a portfolio competition. And this is where students prepare their portfolios and they put them on tables all around the Hinman building. and they get evaluated by faculty. And then each studio there's a winner selected from each studio, and then the winning students get a really nice book for winning the competition. So it's a competition. It's a good way for students to get practice preparing their portfolio. But more than anything, it's just kind of it's a fun event to bring everybody together. And then we end the year with a large end of year student exhibition where the entire space and the courtyard just kind of transform into this comprehensive exhibition of student work from throughout the year. So that's it. I know we ran a little bit long, but we ran very long. But I guess what I'd like to do now is let the students maybe just say a few words about their experience at the school, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Paola, why don't you chime in? We haven't had a chance to hear from you.
Yeah, of course. Well, the first time I came to Georgia Tech, I was a bit nervous because I'm from Puerto Rico. My first language is Spanish, and this was the first time that I went to an institute that was completely in English. So I was a bit nervous about that, but the flexibility of my professors and their encouragement to provide any help I needed, it was outstanding, and I'm so grateful for that. I was able to take electives, which tried to help me by translating and also by communicating with my fellow students and professors. And I think it was incredible. I've seen a lot of questions about which programs are we using in the MARC program. At the beginning, I never used Rhino or Rhinoceros or Revit, but I must say to you, the facility and the opportunities you have in the program, they're amazing. They give you opportunities to take electives in different kinds of programs, just like Revit. You have the class in media modeling, which encourages you to use Rhinoceros and learn about other plugins such as Grasshopper and Honeybee and Ladybug. And that helped me a lot in my first semester of studio. I was with my instructor was Fred Pearsall, and we used those programs to see our building's capacities regarding environmental systems, and it was incredible. I don't know if anyone else wishes to to say something about their experience here, but for me it has been incredible. I'm very, very grateful for everything.
And Paola, you're currently in the Portman studio, in the second year Portman studio,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yep.
Yes, it's been incredible because it's a different exercise. We have already built-in building, and we're kind of doing a whole operation in it. We've had the opportunity of making a program of a total demolition 50-50, or trying to just use a small insertion until to the building. So there's a variety of projects, and it's very, very interesting learning more about the carbon cities and how we can produce efficient buildings in this whole scenario that's going on right now in the world, in which we need to make a difference of our projects. So yes.
Right. So Banksy, you've been around for a while. Why don't you talk about your kind of final thoughts as you're on your way out into the world?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been here. This is my 6th year here at Tech Architecture program. And honestly, I'd say just throughout from way back when I started to now, each year we just keep stepping things forward and pushing the boundaries even more. And as Paolo was saying, you have the opportunities to take so many different classes. And even though Georgia Tech is a technical school, so you think that it's very kind of like rigid in terms of the math and other science portions, there's still a lot of room for creativity and freedom in your design thinking, where you're able to explore your own ideas within the lens of like your studio topics. So I think there's a lot of freedom and opportunity to kind of branch out and try different things. Like I've taken so many classes that have been based in the digital fabrication lab, which is something when I started I didn't think I'd be doing, but took one and just fell in love and like taking a bunch now. So there's a lot of opportunity here.
Great. So Kate, a lot of students like you are coming in without any architecture background, and it can probably be kind of intimidating. So why don't you just talk about how your experience has been with that, and also just a little bit about this idea called studio. I mean, a lot of people don't even know what a design studio is. So maybe, from your perspective, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the word studio I'm a little more familiar with, given my studio art background. So going through my bachelor's degree, I had an art class at least one art class every semester. So I think that if you have an art background, I think that life in studio will be kind of a comfort zone for you. If not, I think that it's just kind of, it's hard to put my finger on exactly how the environment is, because it's kind of just like a playground in a in a fun educational and learning way. I really enjoy just getting to know everybody in the building, and Hinman is just a giant open studio space, so you can see and look over desks and see what some of the advanced students like Banksy are working on, and then you can see us newbies on the one side mixing up our plan sections and elevation. So I'd say we've come a long way since my first days in the program, and it's just so self-rewarding to see that because I didn't have an architecture background, to see where I came in day one versus where I am. I feel like I'm just coding in Rhino. You pick up the software and you pick up the architecture terminology quicker than you might expect. But
I was gonna just also add, the one thing that I love about studio culture is kind of how you're saying it's very open and the ability to interact with students from all different years. And since with the 3.5-year program, there's so many different students coming in with different backgrounds. Like for those of us who have been doing architecture our whole time, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air seeing people come in with different ideas and how they're approaching architecture as a whole, rather than me, who I've been like learning and trying to follow a path throughout all my 6 years. So it just opens you up to a breadth of different ways of thinking.
I agree. I think that by having that diversity of backgrounds in one space, you have a lot of people addressing the same design problem in a million different ways, and I think that is arguably the best learning experience, because you learn from your peers, and you get advice from mechanical engineers, you get advice from studio art majors, muralists, you get it's absolute. There's so many different people with different backgrounds, and that's been the most rewarding for me personally.
Great. Okay. So Robin Tucker is our academic advisor, and she's we always try to figure out how to describe Robin because she's so incredible and so important to the school. This place would not operate without her. And we always tell all of our incoming students, before you get to know anybody else, get to know Robin, because she is the one who's going to make your life easy, and she's going to help you through the whole process. So I'll let Robin kind of chime in here. Maybe you can start answering some of the questions, Robin.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I feel like I already know most of you. I think we've pretty much all had at least some email communication in the last week or two. I know that this is a little bit of a scary time for everyone, and that you really don't know what's going to happen with your fall admission. We've already had to make some adjustments to those of you who were admitted in the summer. We're on it. We're monitoring everything. It's going to be okay. Just know that if you're admitted to Georgia Tech, you're admitted to Georgia Tech. Do not be concerned. If you accept our admissions offer, we're going to make sure you get here. If for any reason we are not able to bring you in the fall, and we don't know that at this point, we have no indication of that. We're processing everything as if you're going to be here with us in August, if that's when you've been admitted. But if for any reason we had to go away from that or go online or whatever, we're going to move your admission forward. We're letting you defer. Even those of you who are international, who need I-20s, we can move that I-20 forward. Right now, our Office of International Education has not given us any indication that we are not to process people for fall. We're processing I-20s, or we'll begin that process very shortly, as if you're coming in August. We understand there's going to be a long wait line for visas, and we'll work with you on those things. If we need to defer you forward, we can take care of that. At this point, the main concern for most of you seems to be that you have not yet been able to see, or you feel like you haven't received your institute admissions letter. We're well aware of that. I've been online with those folks every day pushing this, and they're working on over 20,000 plus applications right now. All are working from home, so everything takes a bit longer. Just know you're in the workflow. If you were not eligible for admission to Georgia Tech for some reason, we wouldn't have admitted you as a department. I don't give any applications out to our faculty to review who are not eligible for Georgia Tech admission. So there's no question that you're going to receive an admissions letter from the Institute. It just may or may not have happened yet. We're about halfway there. My best advice there is patience. I know that you're all seeing the deadline of April 15th to answer schools coming. They're working diligently to try to get everybody processed by then. Please know that you will not receive an email from the Institute like you did from us. You will log back into your application portal, and you should be able to, once it's processed, see your decision letter there from the Institute. Now, if for any reason, and we do know there's some glitches in the system right now. In fact, I've had an email just since we've been on the webinar about this. If you are unable to see your admissions letter and you do not receive a little button that allows you to accept the decision, don't worry. That doesn't mean anything for you. Doesn't mean that you're not admitted. Please just email either me or our other advisor, Netra Wisdom, and you can find her email on the website if you need it. We can put the admissions decision in for you on our side. If you are an international student, this is particularly important because we cannot process an I-20 for you or begin that process unless you have accepted our admissions decision. So just be aware of that and let us know as soon as you've made your decision. We're happy to do it for you, and we can confirm that you've been accepted by the Institute even if you're unable to see that on your There will be no postal mail. There will be no email from the Institute. Now, once you have been accepted, have accepted your decision, once we've put that in for you, you will begin to receive emails preparing you to come to Georgia Tech from the Institute, like for things like orientations and parking and health services and requirements and documents that you may need to provide to us before you come. So basically, I guess my best advice to you right now is, if in doubt, send us an email, but also understand that there's not a problem. You shouldn't be concerned. It's just a slow process. Everything takes longer doing it remotely. I have attempted in the Q&A to answer as many questions as I could get to while everyone else was presenting. There are a few of those that are better addressed by faculty or maybe by Michael or one of the students. So I'm leaving those, but know that we will look at them and we'll get an answer out there for you. If anybody has questions, I'm always here. I answer my emails. I clean out my inbox every day. So just know you can reach me. I know it's a little bit of a scary time. I hope to see all of you in the fall, and we're working towards that goal right now.
Great, Robin. Thank you so much. I'm just browsing through the questions and seeing if there's any that I can quickly answer. Here's one, our interdisciplinary research. What's that, Carmen?
Oh, I was going to point out that there was a question about the difference between the MARC and the MS program, and I think this would be a good opportunity to address that.
I can fill that in. So the Master of Architecture program is a professional accredited program. If you want to become a registered architect in the United States, you have to take that program and get a degree from an accredited program. As you know, it's a 2-year program for those with a background or a 3.5-year program for those without a background. So that's the Master of Architecture. The Master of Science in Architecture is a post-professional degree. It's not an accredited program. Excuse me. So you cannot become licensed with that program unless you have, accredited degree before you enter that program. And it's much more. It's like a specialized a program where you pick a specific topic that you're interested in, and you develop some expertise around those topics. So think about it as like if you have a Master of Architecture, you have a solid foundation to become an architect. If you want to add something to that to become specialized in energy modeling or digital fabrication or health and design, then you take that program to get that extra credential. And I will also say that it's also for students who are maybe interested in doing a PhD program, but not sure. So then you do the MS for 1 year, you get exposed to what research is about, and then you decide whether you want to go back into the profession or go on to a PhD program. Carmen, are there any other questions that you identified that were common?
I'm looking through them now. So we have a question about our 3.5-year MARC that asks, what is one thing that you think makes Georgia Tech, our 3.5 years, stand out against other MARC programs? And I think we could say the same for our 2 year.
Yep. Michael, you want to take that?
I think I think our students have done a good job answering that question. I like top fives. I'd say the top 5 ways that we're distinguished would be the campus and location. You're in the heart of the innovation district. You're at a premier technology school. The facilities that we offer are exceptional. I mean, Scott, all of us visit a lot of different schools. The assets that we have at Georgia Tech, the teaching tools, outstanding. The student body, truly exceptional. I mean, really, truly exceptional student body. And again, we're drawing from across disciplines at Georgia Tech. We have one of the largest PhD programs in the country, and the level of research that is informing our curriculum and our pedagogical methods is, I think it's premier. I really think it's premier. The faculty's awesome too, and remember, when you've got a bunch of smart people together, they have a lot of choices, and we've managed to recruit some really awesome faculty, and we've got a whole new class of young faculty coming in that are really, truly exceptional.
Yeah, I'll add just a little bit to that. I mean, I think between, Michael and Deborah and Keith and I, we've either taught at or, participated in reviews at schools all over the country. I taught at Columbia for many years before coming to Georgia Tech. Keith taught at Columbia and Penn and University of Kentucky. Deborah's taught at MIT and other schools. And the one thing that I'll say, and what really attracts me to Georgia Tech, is that, especially the graduate programs, is that is just the culture of engagement with research and the culture of engagement with industry. In other words, and I say this with we approach and take on problems that are important and that are real world problems that are in the world right now. It's not a highly theoretical program. It's a hands-on program. You learn how to do things, and you're just really engaged in what's going on in the world. And to me, that's quite unique about Georgia Tech. And it's very serious engagement with industry, and that largely comes through our connection with the larger institute and with our PhD program. So it's really a unique place in that regard.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that. What I've seen also in the environment with the students in how they work, how they are open to collaborate among themselves, to either work in teams or just help each other, and the kind of energy that is in the student's body creates a learning atmosphere that is really much more rich than what I've been exposed to. So I think that's pretty unique, and it does not always happen, especially because these are all the schools that Scott was mentioning, and also Georgia Tech. They are schools, where it's not easy to get in. Although the students are highly qualified, sometimes the atmospheres can get very competitive, and I'm not seeing this in Georgia Tech in a way that is unhealthy or in a way in which it prevents the students from learning. And I think this is great, because then you're really able to make the most of the resources that you have, of the faculty that is around, or the visitors that come to share their knowledge or their experience, and also of the other students that are around you that many times become your partners in life or in work, or your colleagues out there.
Great. Do we want to move on to another question?
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question that I think we could expand again on the conversation about Atlanta. We had a question about the safety and security of the city, and I also think it would be good to just talk about what Georgia Tech does to help our students with that.
I'll take. I have a couple of comments about. Most of us live within walking distance of the campus. We see each other all the time. I think Atlanta, the Midtown neighborhood, is safer than it's ever been. And the Institute has a number of measures in place, from the trolley system all the way down to escorts. If you're working really late at night on campus, there's a service you can call that will escort you back to your dorm or your apartment. So cities have changed a lot in the last 20 years because they've been resettled. And there's so many people living in Midtown now. And it's a little bit cliche to say it, but we're all looking out for each other. There's a phenomenon that started here a couple of weeks ago at 8 o'clock every night when we have shift change at all the hospitals. Everyone goes outside and applauds. There's music played. My wife has a pot and a pan that she bangs together. I mean, there's a sense of community here that we're becoming even more aware of through this pandemic situation that's building a much stronger community. It's really phenomenal. I'm so proud of Atlanta, and it is a safe place, and I think you'll find the campus to be not only beautiful but safe.
Michael, we also had questions about being able to see some of the student work. And I know you had mentioned sharing some of that right now. And I also want to jump in and point people to our Instagram account. We actually post quite a bit of student work there. Some of it is happening right now. And we also have some student work that is from the past semesters. And we do a pretty good job of keeping that archive alive using our Instagram account. And you can find us on Instagram at GT Architecture. That's just GTARCHITECTURE.
Yeah. I'll share a screen quickly because the question now is how are we delivering content? And I was on Deborah's review the other day. It was awesome. Deborah's students all made videos and PDFs, and I spent time going through each one of them, and then I met with the students in groups of 3 and 4, and we had a really awesome conversation. In the technology course that Scott and I are teaching, I have a document camera set up, and I just do a lot of drawing. So this afternoon, I get so much pleasure out of drawing and sketching, and it's become actually, I think, a little bit better sitting around the table because everyone can see, everybody makes screen captures, etc. I'll share this screen with you now. I'm going to share my entire screen. Oh, start sharing. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, here we go. Can you all see that?
I can't see your screen, Michael.
Okay, hold on.
It's starting to move. Okay.
Yeah, now we can. Yep.
You see this?
Yep.
Yes.
So this is our virtual space. This was our pin up on Monday. And we have 9 teams working. Yes.
Michael, now it's just your desktop. It's not showing that. Are you showing the document?
I can see Miro.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Is that it?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
You should
right
see
there.
it now.
There it goes. There it
Yeah.
goes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, these are architects and engineers working together. So this is a studio that's called Daylight Nightlight. And we're innovating, our sites are London, Mexico, Chicago, Miami, Puerto Rico in the year 2070. So we're working 50 years in the future. And as you can see here, this architecture student is innovating what he calls a sky farm. This is located in Chicago. The cool thing about Mira is that you can embed videos so you can see some of the technology, the technical device that's being delivered around urban food production, some of the different types of spaces that are being created. And then his engineering partner is providing constant feedback, in a collaborative format, on how daylighting is working, on temperature ranges, the amount of lux, etc. So there's one in Miami. It's a project that's a gigantic funnel. It's focused on water harvesting and health. And we use this format. This is the Art Factory in Chicago, which is actually quite interesting. We're using this format along with Blue Jeans. So we meet in Blue Jeans. We have a pinup every Monday. I'm so excited about it. I tell you, the amount of innovation that's coming out of this this health crisis is astonishing to me, and it's actually raising the bar on how we're delivering content and the things that we're doing, the way that we communicate. Yesterday in studio, everybody brought a little music in. We listened to some different music while we were working. In Deborah's class, just totally blow you away some of the videos that the students are making and putting up on YouTube. And perhaps we can share some of those with everybody. I'll put an email together that that maybe invites you all to take a look at some of the different ways in which we are distance learning. It's really working. So I'll stop
Michael,
there.
So this what we're looking at right now. So this is basically just a virtual pinup board, right? Where students are just constantly adding new drawings and updating their work, and everybody can see everybody else's work. Yeah,
That's
just
right.
yeah, that's very cool.
It's actually better, I think, because we can all see each other's work, and we'll repin on Monday. So we pin up every Monday. The work is refreshed. This is from last Monday, and it's actually quite brilliant. And to think that you can now embed models, we're working on this light harvester that also has some solar tubes in it for urban agriculture production. But it's pretty fascinating that you can drop these digital models in, and the resolution is great.
And no paper is wasted.
No paper is
That's right.
That's
No
true.
printing problems.
Yesterday, I gave a talk in a real estate finance course. I'm a closet real estate finance nerd, and we basically made a big whiteboard, and we had a conversation, and we put a few questions to everyone, and we filled out the whiteboard. I had yesterday in that presentation about 25 students, and I had the class roll. So if you come to any of my sessions, be ready to be called on, because I go down a list that we're doing. And I want to go back to Robin's point, because I know these are strange times, but we're going to rise above this, and we're going to learn more about teaching over the course of the next 2 or 3 months than we ever thought we knew. And it's working.
Yep.
Okay, I'll turn it back over.
So
And I
Carmen,
think we
maybe
have
one-
time for just maybe one more question.
Yeah, perfect.
And I'm just going to kind of pull, we had a few people ask a similar question. I'm just going to kind of pull this together. And the question is about working while pursuing an MArch. And I think it would be good to address, like, some students I know do internships. I know there are some that may be working, and I know with our career fair, we also encourage a lot of people to work in the summers. So let's talk a little bit about that. But before we do, I just want to call attention to on Thursday, April 9th, from 12 to 12:45, we will have a special topics session discussing career opportunities and job search support. We've got 5 special topic sessions, and I think this is a pretty important one. So I just wanted to call that out.
Okay. Actually, are any of the students, Banksy, Kate, or Paolo, are any of you working while you're going to school? Or have you?
Yeah, this is Banksy. I currently work while going to school, and I think I've answered a couple of the questions in the chat about it, but it is a possibility. I think it just takes coordination between yourself and, if you're working at a firm, working with your firm to make sure that you're able to complete the work that you need to at work, as well as still complete your schoolwork on time. Myself and most other students that I know that work at firms while attending school, we usually work between 10 to 15 hours. And we've seen that's kind of like a good balance where you're still able to get some experience in the office, but still able to complete your schoolwork as well.
Yeah, one of the main benefits of having the career fair on spring term is that many students have the opportunity to engage with the architecture firms in the Atlanta area. I've had many friends that they have internships during the summer. Of course, we don't know because of the situation what will be happening to those, but my experience here is that all the firms are flexible and you can address them and they'll be happy to help to seek internships that suit you better. Also, we have the school has a spring break opportunity. I think that's with Charles Rudolph, that they're able to participate for a whole week in one of the cities of the United States. I had some friends that were going to Chicago and New York. Hopefully next year everything will be available due to the situation of the virus. Many of them had to cancel those trips, but you have a lot of opportunities in the Institute.
my experience was I was going to be a TA this summer at the Barcelona summer program. Unfortunately, it was canceled, all studies abroad because of the situation, but don't be afraid of not having any jobs or opportunities in Atlanta. You will find if you are able to communicate, and feel free to speak to anyone. Don't be nervous. They'll be happy to help. And at least that was my experience in this semester in the Institute.
Additionally,
I can say,
Sorry, I have to sign off. I have another conference call at 10:30. I look forward to seeing everyone again next week. And if you have any questions, please email me. Thank you so much. Excellent turnout. Beautiful questions. I look forward to seeing everybody in person very soon.
this is Banksy again, and I was just going to add, with like text location and the number of firms that are around in Atlanta, at many of the events that we do have on campus, there are professionals always there. So there's always the opportunity to talk and network and meet other Atlanta professionals and start growing your network without having to wait till the career fair.
I'll just chime in too. Because I'm in my first year, I haven't had an architecture opportunity yet. I have an upcoming internship this summer that I'm excited about, that hopefully it will still stay in place. But in regards to working while you're in school, I'm not sure about the availability of graduate TAs and RAs, but I work in the Hinman Library, and I spend 15 hours a week in there, and that's really enjoyable as well to just kind of step away from your classwork and just do something different, which is nice, and get paid.
yeah, maybe from the perspective of the faculty or my experience as a professor, I've had students of already in Georgia Tech of different kinds, some who are have been working, others who are fully involved in the university. In terms of opportunities, as it has been said, you're going to have a wide range of opportunities, and maybe this puts a bit of difficulty in making choices. So I would say the most important thing is that you know yourselves and you set your priorities high, so that when you come to school, you're ready to make those decisions. If working at the same time than learning, it's a priority because you want to get exposed, then you will be able to pursue that. If you prefer for a more intense academic experience, you know, a lot of the whole range of choices have been presented in this session. So it really comes to what your priorities are. I think what your economical situation may be also, if working, it's also a question of money, but also you have to know yourself. There are students who are very mature, are very well organized, are able to cope with a lot of things, and others who actually do better when they have less things happening at the same time. These years in Georgia Tech will be super special and unique. So really make the most of it in the way that you think will work for who you are and what you need at this specific moment of your life.
And one thing, I'll just a very quick fact. A few months ago, I did a survey of trying to find out how many architecture firms were in Atlanta, because I just knew there were a lot. And I was shocked to find out that there's 289 firms in Atlanta. Okay, that's a lot of architecture firms. So just know that there's, especially, you know, if the economy gets more challenging moving forward, having 289 firms to draw from is going to be a good thing. So there are a lot of firms in Atlanta, and a lot of opportunities if you want to work in Atlanta. So Carmen, should we wrap up?
I think it's time.
Okay, all right. So I just want to end by thanking everybody for sticking on. I see there's still 76 people that are on, and we went over by 35 or so minutes, but there was a lot to say, a lot of great questions, and I just encourage everybody to make sure as you're going through this process of making a decision, just make sure that you're getting all the information you need. And we're here to help you in any way that we can. Robin, with any academic questions, any of the faculty, of course, the students are always there. And I'm here. If you want to reach out to me, you can find my email on the website. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And so, yeah, I'll just close by thanking everybody for joining us. I hope everybody is in a safe place. And hopefully by fall we'll be out of this and back to normal. But we're going to be ready no matter what. So good luck with everybody's decision, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you soon.